Alright, this time we're using Autodesk Inventor Pro to design a bespoke desk charger. I've got all the steps of the design here on this menu on the left, and they're all suppressed so that we can reveal them one at a time to show the design process. So the first thing is a sketch, and Inventor likes you to dimension and constrain things. So the first sketch is 80 by 55 millimeters, and it's constrained to the origin. And then once you've got the sketch done, you extrude it, and in this case I think I did about 2 millimeters to create a rectangle. And then the next sketch on there is going to be the most complicated part of this entire design. So let's go back to a straight-on view and take a look at all the madness going on there. I didn't draw this actually in this piece. I made a separate gauge in a different file, printed it, made sure it fit the desk charger, adjusted it when it didn't, and then copied and pasted it back in. But as you can see, it's a pretty complicated shape with a bunch of angles and dimensions, and once I had it working right separately, I brought it into this design and only had to repeat the gauge once or twice, and that allowed me to print the entire more complicated thing just once. So what I'm going to do with this first set of dimensioned and constrained information is extrude a little bit of flange to create some rigidity. So let's do that. And you can see that when I hold it up like this, there it is. Okay, so on to the next thing, and that's going to be removing the plastic. I use the same sketch from before and then just extrude the plastic out. Like that. And now the basics of the design are in place, where I've got my top piece with a hole for the USB charger to go through. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is a little flange to center everything on the hole in my desk. And we can zoom in and see the dimensions of this one are slightly smaller. It's 70 by 45 millimeters, 2 millimeters thick, and still constrained to the origin so that it's centered like the rest of the pieces. And once you've got your information dimensioned and constrained, you can go ahead and extrude it out. The next thing I'm going to do is different from the rest of drawings and extruding, and that's a fillet. We can zoom in to show it rounding the edges. When you do that feature all 4 times, you've got something that will actually fit into my desk. And then you can check it using the measure feature. Up here you go inspect, distance, and you can measure from the outside of there to the outside of there. See the dimensions, check those against your sketch, and make sure that it's going to fit before you print it. Alright. So the next thing is going to be the 2 tabs that hold the zip tie in place that are used to keep the USB charger secure. So let's look at that sketch. And it's just a 3 by 10 rectangle constrained to the origin that I'm going to extrude out. Like so. Alright, and then once I've got that done, I'm going to fillet either edge. Not because I have to, but because I thought it looked nice. The next sketch is a little bit easier to see from the other side, so we'll flip it around. Is a hole that it is dimensioned with a 6 millimeter radius so that it's wide enough for a zip tie to pass through, and then constrained so that it's in the middle of this overall piece, exactly centered, and 9 millimeters up, so that once we've got the sketch dimensioned and constrained, we can extrude it out, and there you've got a hole. Now, the next step we're going to do is a nice way to save a lot of time. Once you've created a shape, this thing that holds a zip tie, and you like the dimensions, you can mirror the entire thing, and you can see the preview there around the axis. So in this case, since the origin is in the middle of the design, I use the plane that runs through here to create the entire mirror in one step. And that saved me a lot of time. And so the next thing is a chamfer around the top. And you can see there, that's just to make the design a little less jagged, and that's what it looks like when it's done. And we're getting pretty close to finished. So the next sketch is the hole, and again I drew it on the bottom, that the audio extension cable is going to go through. And I did it in two extrusions. The first one is the flange that comes down and supports it, like that. And the next one is getting rid of the rest of the plastic in the hole so that there's room for it to pass through. Alright. Then after that I did another chamfer. And what this chamfer does, after playing around with it for a bit, is create a slight angle on the sides so that when the audio extension cable slides in, it'll keep going in until it's good and pinched and won't move around at all. And we're almost done. So the last extrusion is making a pass-through for the rest of the cables coming up from underneath my desk. So I just draw that shape on and then chop it out. And that's the end of the design. We can zoom out a little bit and take a quick tour. Of everything that's going on.